Hi, this is Nerfinator again with another Nerf review. This time I'm doing a mod guide for the Nerf nstrike Maverick. Sorry, my brain went a little blank there for a second. So let's go ahead and open this up. I'm going to get my mod kit. This is just something I threw together. It's got like screws and springs and stuff in there, so you get a screwdriver out of that, and we're going to go ahead and take out the screws. Wrong side. Sorry I can't time lapse this or pause the video while I undo the screws. That's just the camera I'm using right now. Let's see, I'll give you a better view of the gun. I'm trying to unscrew all these screws. Important thing to note, these screws aren't all the same size, so make sure you kind of know where they all go, or better yet, just try to keep them all in the same spots as you take things apart. So I try to keep them in their arranged little holes so that they don't fall out and go places, but for the most part it doesn't matter a whole lot. Some of the newer guns, the screws will be pretty much all the same size, so if you're modding a newer version of this, don't worry about it. I don't actually have the strong arm, but for those of you who do have it, it is a bit temperamental to mod. I don't know how to mod those things yet. I haven't had the chance to really go through and take a good look at it, but yeah, these old nstrike blasters, they're pretty tough. They're pretty durable. The plastic's actually a bit tougher than the new ones, I think. New ones just feel lighter and a little less durable and long lasting. So alright, I think that's about it. Looks like it's, yeah, there we go. Coming apart nicely. Alright, so yeah, there's nothing really to remark about on that side. Set that aside. Okay, so the internals of this thing. As you can see, here's your spring, your catch, your trigger system. You can see when you pull the trigger, it advances the barrel. I've already gone ahead and taken the air restrictors out of this. I've also made the dropout mod for the barrel, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did that so you can make the mods yourself. Here on the front end, here on the barrel, obviously you take the barrel out of the case, but right about here there'll be a little tab or nub, whatever you want to call it. You just take an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, something like that, and you shave it off shave it as flat as you can. I didn't get it as flat as I would like it, but just go ahead and cut that off. And then here on the gun itself, or the shell I should say, you'll have a little tab right up in here. It'll be like a 90-degree angle tab, or it'll be more like right here, and it'll be a 90-degree angle tab right there, and you just take that out real easy. Like I said, an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, sheetrock knife, something like that. In order to take out the air restrictor, I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you do, there's 3 screws in the back of this, so you remove these screws, and again, I apologize for not being able to time-lapse this. I don't know how to do time lapses, so that's not really gonna work if I tried. Oops. Okay, not a crisis there. Just bumped it. Some parts came out of alignment. No problem. Okay. Back to the final screw. If you're wondering, like I did when I first tried to take this apart, how to actually get this off, what you do is you take a hammer. You don't want to bang it or anything like that. What you actually do is you take the hook here on the back of the hammer, you work it under there, and you pull this top piece. You can see that. Just pull it right off. Be real gentle. Don't pull it too hard. Don't yank it. Just a real gentle pull. And that piece got away from me. Hang on a second. Okay. So make sure it's like that. See the little orange piece in there? You should be able to. Alright, and then this pin right here might fall out the back. It's got a little spring on it. Go ahead and just pull that out, lay it very carefully aside. Do not lose that spring. It is a very important spring. And then you can just pull off the cylinder, set that aside, and this is what it will look like. You'll have all your dart pegs. If you want, you can take an X-Acto knife or something like that and cut off these dart pegs. Real simple. You pull off the dart pegs just like that, and the air restrictors will be inside. They'll probably just fly out. Real easy to do. And then put that back together. Make sure you put it back together right. There's these screws and the screw holes inside have to line up. You'll see how to do that when you take that apart. So make sure you put it back correctly. Very important. I'm going to set this aside once I get the 3 screws back in, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with it. Otherwise, I'll show you how to open up the plunger tube, and from then you can put some electrical tape in there under the O-ring, increase the seal if you want. You can, I think, I'm not sure if you'd have to use a Dremel or not to widen this, but I think you could do a brass breech in this cylinder, but I don't know. Should be able to, but I'm not an expert in that area. I've never brass breeched a blaster, so it's not my area of expertise. Go ahead and once you've got the screws back in, put the rod back in. Make sure that it's got the tip of it sticking out, and then you just put this back on. And it is pretty difficult to get to reassemble, so you're going to need this hammer again. You set it down on the floor and you just tap it until it gets to where it'll work. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so I'm going to set the barrel aside for a moment. I'm going to focus on the rest of the blaster. So in order to take out the plunger tube, all I have to do is literally just pull it right out of the blaster. This is the plunger rod and the tube. Very simple. Would not need much electrical tape in this instance. There is like no obstructions in there. Very clean air cylinder, so no problems there. Nothing really to block up. I don't see any air holes around the edges or anywhere there. I don't really see any on this part either. So as far as I can tell, there's no obstructions or anything. So what you do is you just put this into there. You put that little X right there where the spring is. Speaking of the spring, I'm actually going to just pull this black catch. You see that? Right. Just pull it right out with the spring. Set this aside. You're going to be needing that later. It's a very crucial part. Important thing to note with these things: do not lose any of the parts that come out of this, because in these old nstrike blasters, all of the parts are crucial parts. So that is worth noting. I do believe the spring I chose for this may not be suitable. I think I've got another spring over here I can use. Let me check. Yeah, this might be a bit of a wonky spring. Yeah, I can't do that. But it seems the spring I was going to use to replace it may not work. I don't know. So let's test this out. See if it works. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's too small a diameter. If you're wondering what spring this is a spring from the modulus ion fire. And, so apparently that's too small. Well, I guess that solves our problem there. So I'm just going to put the stock spring back in. I may go ahead and just put a spacer in there. I don't really have anything to space it with. Let me think. Well, I suppose you could. Well, I've seen a lot of people take pennies and other change, put in here behind the spring, so I believe I might try that. See if I can get that to work. Okay, so I've got some change. I'm gonna see if I can't get this maybe to increase the tension on the spring a bit. Maybe I need something a little bit smaller. See if yeah, that's too small. So I guess what you really want is something like the size of a nickel, I guess. It's about the size you want. I'm going to make sure that works. Just make sure I can close this all up. So I think 2 nickels may be about the space about the biggest space I can take up. I'm gonna see if pennies will work, but I don't think so. Oh, what do you know? Pennies do seem to work. So I'm going to put 4 pennies in there. That seems to be working. Okay, so pennies may be the operative change for this blaster. We have a penny spring mod for your Maverick. Let's go ahead and start reassembling this thing. I think we've about modded it, or explained how to mod it about as much as I can, so we're going to reassemble it and go from there. When you're putting this back together, make sure you're being very careful. You don't want anything to pop out of place while you're putting this back together. So I'm going to put the screws that I took out in place. So it's really a pretty easy blaster to mod. Not that hard. Not for beginners, but oh crud. Look and see what I've done. I've forgotten a catch. I guess this just goes to show, no matter how experienced you get, you're always going to forget something sooner or later. So I guess word to the wise, always remember to check everything twice before you start putting the screws back in on your blasters, because you never know what you might forget. You may just forget to put the trigger back in. So yeah. So we're just going to put those pennies back where they're supposed to be. Oops. I'll take those out for the moment. This seems to have started to explode in my face here. Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this. I think. Never quite know how these things will turn out. Unless you've done them like a million times and you know exactly what you're doing. But this is my first time modding the Maverick, so bound to make a couple of mistakes here and there. So, alright. Now that you've got all that back in place, or that I've got all that back in place, rather, go ahead and let's go ahead and get all that all situated and button down tight. Alright. Alright. Now we can start screwing this thing together. I will say one thing. If you've ever modded a Nerf gun, then you will know this. Nerf puts a lot of screws in these things. If you've ever taken apart a Stampede or something of equal size, then you know what I'm talking about. There are 37 screws in the Stampede, and it's a rather lengthy process to undo all those screws. So I'm going to go ahead and just tighten these up. Hey, Casper. That's our cat, Casper. He's a bit of a troublemaker, aren't you, Casper? Yeah. Yeah. So, get all these put back in. We're almost done. Kind of an important note. Always make sure your blaster works. Although I'm pretty sure mine will. But if it's your first time modding a blaster, make sure it works before you put it back together, because it's a pain in the neck to have to keep taking it apart and putting it back together just because you forgot something or didn't put something back together right. So make sure that you put it back together right the first time. I know what I'm talking about because I've done it several times where I don't pay attention and I put something back a little bit odd and it doesn't work right, so I have to take it all apart again and redo it. One last screw. Okay, that's it. The finished result, you'll have a rail that pops out further. We'll have better distance, better performance overall. And listen to that. No wiggle when you shoot it. Very, very nice. Very nice. So this has been Nerfinator with the mod guide for the Maverick nstrike series. So if you liked the video, like, subscribe, comment in the comments below, and as always, this is Nerfinator signing off.